how are changing family dynamics affecting wealth distribution patterns?
Would you blame a child for him not doing something, or the parent should own up the responsibility also for not grooming the child enough so that he does that? If the second generation is not groomed, then as you rightly said, the business will teach him. The global statistics says that only 6 to 8% businesses go into the third generation. When you're working in a family business, the most critical part of doing that is managing your emotions. One of the biggest turning points also would be the pandemic.
Mr. Sandeep Nerlekar, value creator, natural leader, effective strategist, and new initiative specialist. Expertise in designing and drafting family arrangements, setting up of private trusts and asset protection structures, family offices, and private banking. He brings in 28 years of rich experience in banking, family business consulting, estate planning, and private banking.
So, Sandeep, you work in the family succession management plan. Can you explain what exactly it is that you do and how did you get into it?
So I work in the space of family business succession planning, if I have to define that way. Uh, well, I started as a banker, so I have been into banking and consulting for last now close to 30 years. And this was a company that I had set up for the bank. And eventually I bought out the bank's stake in the venture because I felt there's a huge opportunity in this kind of a segment. And also the bank allowed me to buy the stake. And today we reached out to not only the Indian clients, but globally we worked with quite a lot of families, especially in this segment. So that's that.
And how many families do you work with?
So I can tell you, so what we do is we typically work in the family business succession planning space, or legacy planning space, which can be split into something like an estate planning and family business planning. On the estate planning side, we would have worked with more than 700 plus families now. On the family business consulting side or succession planning side, probably more than 160 plus families that we have advised.
And you're doing this pan-India?
We're doing this globally.
Oh, amazing.
So one of the first global clients that we handled was in Africa, where at that time the members in the family were 166.
One family?
One large family.
Wow.
My probably fourth generation now, but 166 members spread across multiple jurisdictions. So yeah, we do work globally quite a lot also.
So tell me, how are changing family dynamics affecting wealth distribution patterns?
See, honestly, if you see economy pre-91 and post-91, I think there's a huge change.
Right.
When the economy was liberalized, I think you saw a lot of new businesses that were formed. A lot of private capital came in. A lot of international money came in. And I think the entire world opened up for the Indian businesses. Post that, if you see earlier, pre that era, there were only few set of families which were controlling the businesses, and I would say largely the wealth.
Correct.
Post that, the dynamics have changed. And I think one of the biggest turning points also would be the pandemic. Because post 2020, I would say, yeah, maybe last 10 years, but honestly, the turbo that has gone in the engine is in last 4 or 5 years, where you see on the digital side a huge opportunity, or huge opportunities have opened up, where you see probably every week 2 unicorns being formed.
Yeah.
I think that's typically because a lot of business scenarios have changed. Now, with that, if you see, a lot of wealth has got created. Earlier, the wealth was created only in the first and the second generations. Yeah. Now, even a 20-year-old is a billionaire.
Correct.
Correct.
Which is rare compared to 30 years ago.
Yeah, money. Probably when I was doing my education, or when I did my MBA, and that's what the time when the economy was getting liberalized. And I saw, rather, probably my generation was the first generation that saw the benefits of economy being opened, correct? Today, the pace at which we are growing, and globally, probably the way India is holding up its stance, yeah. Also, in terms because there's a lot of, see, as example, if you look at UPI for that matter, today, I think huge number of transactions happen on UPI. Earlier, in the banking system, you have to go to the bank to do a
Correct.
certain, even a deposit a single check.
Correct.
Today, even if you go to a local sabji vendor, he will show you and scanner and you pay. So I think that has really changed, and because of that, I think all these things have led to where a lot of money is getting invested. Correct. With that, a lot of wealth is getting generated. So if you ask me, multiple things need to be considered here. One, there's a set of families which have been always wealthy. There are set of families probably which are into the second generation now, and there are set of businesses which are in the first generation.
Yeah.
So at all these stages, I think one needs planning, and the approach at every stage for every family is different. Honestly, there is no set formula which can fit into all.
Correct.
Correct?
Just like no two families are same, no two family values are same, so you can't have a fit one, fit all.
So I always give this example. God has created everybody largely. Most of us have 2 hands and 2 legs and whatever, correct? But everybody's height is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's looks are different. Even the 5 fingers that you have, the sizes and shapes are different, correct? I think all this is structurally because everything has its own importance. And similarly, in the society, every element is important. Correct? Mane, if you ask me, from right from the sabji vendor to a large conglomerate, I think everybody is part of that ecosystem.
Right.
And he's playing his role, which is important. And like yesterday, I'll give an example. I was in Pune, correct? And I'm originally Puneite. So I went to a place to eat bhel, correct? When I was working in the bank, in HDFC Bank, in 2000, this gentleman used to sell the bhel on a cart outside the branch. Today, I believe he has got, I think, in Pune around 20 or 25 branches.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has got his packaging and he's exporting it. Today, his sons have joined the business.
Amazing.
So, I think if you see how the wealth has transitioned,
Yeah.
yeah, and you have created your own wealth in your own ecosystem.
Correct.
Now, you can't compare, everybody doesn't need to be an Ambani or a Birla. But in that ecosystem, if I've created something different and created a business model which people are aping, I think that's important.
Also, his growth is 200% from where he started to today where he is.
I would put that maybe 10,000%.
I'm just saying, like you said,
So-
not everybody needs to be an Ambani.
Exactly.
You're right. In his own right, he's an Ambani. Look at
Absolutely.
the 10,000% growth.
So, I think I just given a small example,
Yeah,
but
correct.
I travel quite a lot. In each and every city, you would find these kind of things that have happened. Okay, I travel quite a lot in Punjab. I do quite a lot in Gujarat. Yeah, or maybe Indore, for example. And look at, if you ask me, a huge traction is building up today in tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities, where these people are aspiring to do something big.
Yeah.
Okay, these could be the first generation or the second generation entrepreneurs. But today, when we working with them, we realize the aspiration and hunger that they have is at a different level.
So, what emotional challenges arise when you're structuring family arrangements?
So when you are dealing with families, a lot of times families do puzzle or do grapple with questions like, why you and not me? or why you not me syndrome. For example, why you should be the CEO and why I should not be the CEO. Okay, or things like why you should buy or you should get to drive a particular car and why I am not getting to drive a particular car. Uh, I have come across families where people have fought for even when they go for vacation. One brother has gone to a particular place for vacation, another brother has gone somewhere else, and his wife feels that okay, we are given a poor man's treatment, a poor son's treatment. Correct? I think largely most of the problems that people face are mind driven, and they could be we distinguish between the two as tangible and intangible.
Right.
Tangible is something to do with wealth that can be defined.
Yeah.
So my stake, my property, my house, my car, or something of that sort.
Yeah.
And others are mind driven. Mind driven are again ego driven, aspiration driven, or choice driven. Where I want to start a particular business, for example, and you may not feel that this business is the right business for this time.
Correct.
So I think most of the families grapple with these kind of problems.
So they are mostly, when you talk about issues and the emotional challenges, they are based on the intangible. Or are they based on both?
Based on both, because I think a lot of times insecurity, when there's no clarity, either in terms of devolution or either in terms of succession, leadership, plan, and so on and so forth, I think that creates a lot of insecurity amongst people. If there's enough and more clarity in what you have, what you're going to do, how you're going to do, what you're going to get if you do something, I think that will reduce a lot of anxiety or issues amongst the family members, mental issues actually.
Yeah, I think also I see it from this perspective, correct me if I'm wrong. When somebody is the founder of a particular company or a particular empire, their thought process at the time, I'm sure, would have been, I want to make it big. At that time, they're not thinking of which car am I driving, which restaurant I'm eating at, where am I vacationing. So I think what happens when the founder, if you talk to any founder of any first generation, second or third,
Yes.
the founder's concerns are very different, right? In life, it's like, I want to make it big. The vision is only that. I think the mistake that happens in second or third generation, where these issues arise, is there's no vision. Because already that goal was set by the founder. So let's say, I'll give you an example. If the founder set the goal, correct me if I'm wrong, this founder set the goal that our company should reach 100 CR, for example. Now the second generation sees we are at 80. He only has to work hard for 20, but the founder is working towards 100. There's a big difference between somebody who's running 100 meters, somebody who's running 20 meters.
I agree.
So I think that becomes a very big difference, where the person whose aim is only to go up 20% and somebody who's working for 100%, the vision will be different. Hence, the person that's working for the 20% starts looking at other things like, oh, where did I vacation? Like you mentioned, the silly things,
Correct.
right? Or the inconsequential things. It is a choice based, like you said, it's mind driven, ego driven. So I think that becomes the primary role in difference to where the first generation's focus was only how am I growing.
See, also here, when the first generation starts the business, most of the times the business started not with making money, but survival.
That's
A lot
what
of
I'm
times.
saying.
And the hunger drives that person to create something which eventually becomes big because he's dedicated.
Correct.
Now, somewhere in that zeal of making it big, if the next generation is not able to ape your aspiration,
Yeah.
your hunger, I think that's where this 80-20 that you're defining well comes in. Where for me, retaining that 80 is also important. For that fellow, he's already created 80, no? As a son, I'm saying, okay, 80 is there. I just
That's
need
what
to
I'm saying. That complacent thought process comes in 80s already there. The father has done it, or the brother has done it, or whoever has done it. Whoever's
I
the
agree.
founder or the one with the hunger. So I think it's like a passenger, right? The driver is so important because the driver knows where he's going to drive. The passenger is like, I'll reach.
Correct.
The driver's there and I'll reach. So that laid back attitude comes in. I think that's the problem in first, second, or third generation when it comes to business, family businesses, and succession planning. And that's where I think you come in to kind of help them find a balance or help them find a structure that doesn't exist. Because also, as a society or as a culture, we are so focused on It's equal. It's our family. Everybody should have it. That's what at least the founder thinks, or the first generation making money thinks. But then the differences come in second and third, and I think that's where you come to the rescue.
See, honestly, if you need to also look at the Indian society or history per se when you're talking of mental issues, correct? Uh, Earlier, meritocracy was given a huge importance.
Right.
At some point in time, it became where the eldest son became the king.
Correct.
Now, is that right? We don't know whether that person deserves it or whether he's capable enough to manage it.
Right.
Again, coming back to the logic, I think people need to understand what is more important. My business is more important. And when I'm in business, I think I'll give priority to my business. And for that business, I will do everything that is required. So, which means that you also need to take tough calls. Maybe you need to realize that my son is not the best guy to manage it. Should I get a professional to do it?
Correct.
And then that would create a huge issue.
Yeah, because we are coming from that thought process for centuries that it's our birthright.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, it's not a privilege. I think you need to earn these things, correct? And largely, a lot of times I have dealt with families where the promoter itself says कि वो तो राजा का बेटा है, तो वो मांगता है तो so what?
Yeah.
I think he can come anytime. But if you're going to say that, he's going to only learn from that.
But that's my point, right? The mindset, unfortunately, at a young age is created by the first generation to give that to the second generation. Unrealizingly or realizingly, I don't know. Because somewhere, when you tell your child, you are privileged and you can have what you want and you don't need to work for it. And then they're 35 and they're saying, it's my birthright to have this. You feel, I'm the founder, I worked so hard. Why do you feel you don't need to work? But you have given that mindset somewhere, not realizing.
I completely agree. So, since you deal in this space quite a lot, let me put a question to you. Okay, would you blame a child for him not doing something, or the parent should own up the responsibility also for not grooming the child enough so that he does that?
I think there's a certain age till where your parents are responsible. Till that age, they can influence how you think. They can create mindsets for you. But I think there comes a certain age, I would say 2021, after which they don't really have an influence on you. Maybe they have those presets that they have set into you. So, for example, I'll give you a very silly example. Somebody's parents teach them to wake up early, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. What we were taught.
Correct.
Now, if today I, as a parent, don't say that to my child and I say, wake up whatever time you want and sleep whatever time you want, till 2021, I'm sure he will follow that because that becomes his preset. Because he'll say, my parents say that worked for them, works for me. But I think there will come a life where, my experience, if your parents don't teach you, life teaches you. Now, it depends whether you're willing to learn from your life, or you're waiting to get slapped again and again by life and by your circumstances and say, no, this is who I am, my parents succeeded, I will succeed with this. Then it depends.
But
Then you're
Ashna,
putting yourself up for failure.
So, Ashna, but what happens is, as parents or as a family, you are more protective about your family members.
Absolutely.
Correct? But when it comes to business is largely very intense, very dynamic in nature. You're constantly talking about acquiring a market share and growing your market. So there's a lot of aggression, correct? I think if the second generation is not groomed, even mentally, either largely mentally,
Absolutely.
then as you rightly said, the business will teach him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately so, it would be too late.
Because he also has the backing and he doesn't have that need for survival.
Exactly.
Agreed.
It would be too late.
Yeah.
And that's the reason if you see most of the businesses fail. So fundamentally, if you see the global statistics says that only 6 to 8% businesses go into the third generation.
That's it?
That's it.
That's a very small number.
Correct. If you look at India, I think that number would be further skewed.
And would be what, 4%, 5%?
Maybe.
And considering we are a family-driven society, even then?
Considering we are a family-driven society, because today everything has become nuclear.
Yes.
See, if you since we are dealing with mental issues and so on and so forth, erstwhile what would happen is largely people would stay in joint families.
Correct.
So there are multiple uncles and aunts and cousins and brothers. Honestly, I would say one didn't have time, or one got engaged with a lot of people, so your mind didn't drive there, correct? Today we are living in nuclear societies where probably husband, wife and two kids, grandparents maybe there, not maybe there, something of that sort, where the children are one, exposed to a lot of things today.
Right.
And two, I think the interaction between the parents and the children also has reduced largely, correct? Because again, they are busy in what they do. A lot of business families we have seen where I normally ask them a question, how many times you as a family you meet? They say seldom. So when I ask the children who are probably in 25, how often you spend time with your father? He says either he's in office, when he's home, he is probably looking at news, markets, or he's on the phone.
Correct.
Now, how does a child learn? Okay, he could be having zillion questions.
Yeah.
Or they need to be addressed. When they don't get addressed, I think that's where the confusion starts. And maybe they are driven by some insecurities. And if they are not addressed, they lead to slightly bigger issues and bigger problems.
Absolutely.
Also, when we talk of business families, one of the biggest elements that people don't realize is, when we spoke about hunger, right?
Yeah.
If you have hunger, you will strive for it.
Yes.
The second thing is, a lot of times I've seen people have a lot of greed. In equity markets, we say there should be a stop loss, which means that, if markets fall at this price, my stock would be sold, correct? In life, the greed drives people so crazy that now I want 100 crores, I want 500 crores, I want 1,000 crores, and they just go insane behind that. Either you're chasing money, either you're chasing brand or something, brands in terms of the attire that you wear or the cars that you do. I'm not talking about the brand of the business. I think those businesses where I think these things are managed well tend to survive longer because they have better value systems that I've set up.
Yeah, I think it's very important to remember what is the focus, right? So if the focus becomes, like you said, brands and identifying or showing that you are wealthy, I think if that's the focus, then it's very hard for the first, second or third generation to survive. Because if the focus shifts from we are growing or we need to grow to just this is how we look and this is how people should view us, then you're only focusing on the materialistic things.
Yeah, and absolutely right. Again, probably this generational change that have happened.
Yeah.
If you saw, like during my parents' times, I think more or less everybody was middle class. Even rich, super rich, were still middle class in their mentality.
Yeah.
I think they didn't want flashy things.
Yes.
And you see a lot of businesses that way, correct? Today, things have changed. Probably the generation feels that I have not got something and I have struggled quite a lot. Let me make my child's life easy. And I personally feel that's something where fundamentally they go wrong. You can't write your child's destiny.
Absolutely.
Correct?
You cannot write
Anyone's destiny.
Yeah.
And here we are trying to say, okay, let me make his life easy. Let me give that turbo charge to him so that he'll move faster. But with that, you don't realize you're actually crippling him.
Yeah, I think the skill set being given is more important than the housing, clothing, and the roof, I think the skill set that you provide for your child should be your focus. What am I providing if tomorrow I'm not there, the money is not there, the success is not there? How will this human being survive? Does he have the skill set to survive? And that's what I think the previous generation used to think, because survival was everything.
Sure.
So you're very right, I think the skill set providing is more important than what I can leave for my child. He'll be secure, he'll be happy, or she will manage her life even if I'm not there in monetary terms. But I think it's more important that what are you giving in terms of skill set and values, because that's what takes us to the next level in life.
See, the core of everything is a value. If
Yeah.
you got your value system right, rest all things largely will fall in place.
Correct.
See, again, a lot of things you can relate to the history.
Yeah.
Earlier, we were living in joint families, so sacrifice came very easily.
Absolutely.
Sharing came very easily. Correct?
It felt like almost it's a part of our DNA. We didn't have to think to do it.
Correct? Today, things have changed.
Yeah.
Because earlier, for example, in a larger houses also, if I'm correct, you came from Punjab, and where you typically in Punjab have larger families,
Correct.
where houses are big, but when relatives came in, I think everybody shared.
Yes.
Correct? There was no like your room and my room.
No, we didn't have that mindset.
Correct? I think today, even a small child needs to have his privacy.
Yeah.
Correct? He doesn't want to share with his own sibling. Now, if he is not ready to share with his own sibling, just imagine what is going to happen 20 years down the line when these children grow up.
Yeah.
So again, coming back to
I
values.
mean, the world will be so far for them to share for. They won't be able to relate to the fact that they have to share with the world.
Today, I think the generation has created. They want to give so much in abundance.
Yeah.
Why should the next generation want to strive to get anything in life?
Also, I think the mindset of individualism.
Today we are more about me than we.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when it comes to a family business, I think the me needs to change to we, because you need to take a lot of people along. And since the individuality thought creeps in, it becomes difficult for you to adjust with people. Now, this is a mind related issue.
But now, even in bigger families or family businesses, people with family businesses, or people are living in large families who are connected via business. They may not be living together, but they're connected via business. I think I observe there's a lot of parents teaching individuality to the child. My child only likes football, so even if the uncle's kid has come to play, my child won't play badminton. My child only likes soccer.
Correct.
For example, it's a silly example, but that's only. So what happened in our time, or what happened in the previous, when we were younger, your cousins have come, entertain them. We had to do whatever our cousins wanted to do, and we did what we wanted to do, and we made sure we kind of had that harmony going. But I think today, by and large, the mindset is of individuality. And as much as my child should know who he is, as much as I understand that mindset, but I think somewhere inclusiveness is going away. So where the child is taught that if you are A and you meet B, C and D and E, you should be able to understand them because they're different personalities or different choices or different whatever. But we are only teaching A, you are A, you are A, you are A. So the child is unable to understand that there's so many other dimensions available to human beings.
See, if you ask me, it's not only the second or the third generation. I think, say there's a first generation, there are 3 or 4 brothers who started a business together, and then the next generation comes in. I think issue is also with the thought process of the first generation, correct? If the first generation is not able to make it a team play, becomes difficult to carry it forward to the next generation.
Right.
A lot of times when we are dealing with business families, we feel that they're working in silos.
So the friction is there from the first generation.
There are huge undercurrents.
Yeah.
And the first meeting, you will realize, so we run something called as a family business diagnostic process where, we interact with family members to gauge as to where they are. And I think the first meeting itself, you realize that there are a lot of undercurrents. Correct. But I don't, today, after working with so many families, I would like to say that large part of the owners should be taken by the first generation than the last generation, because if you're not able to translate your value systems in the right way to the next generation or to the next generations, I think it's you to be blamed. In communication, what I say, I want to communicate something to you. It's important for me to understand, to me to know whether you understood what I'm saying or not. It's just not about saying a particular thing. I think your understanding is more important. And that's also in family where if you are trying to instill certain value systems, you need to do it again and again over a period of time.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to talk the same language. So I think that is more important.
So When you go for these family wealth discussions, you are sitting with generation 1, 2, and 3, and maybe even the smaller children, so 4. For example, can you tell us how do you manage the emotional tensions? How do you, as a company, manage the emotional tensions that may be undercurrent or that may be on the surface? Either way.
See, one, I think one, we can't get, as a philosophy, we don't get aligned to any emotion with the client. Correct? Because the moment I do that, I'll be aligned to a person. And then I won't be able to do justice with the rest.
Correct.
So we also work as a team. My wife Dipti works very closely with me. She's also a co-founder of the business. And a lot of times when we interact with the clients, multiple members will interact with the same person to get the right perspective.
Correct.
Correct? Because I may gauge you differently.
Yeah. Your perception may be different to your wife Dipti's perception when she meets me.
So the
Correct.
entire team interacts, say with Ashna for example. And when we go back, we actually analyze a lot of things. And then we come up with a plan saying, okay, what we need to do with the family. A lot of times families do approach saying, Sandeep, we want to do this. Why? Because this X family has done it. Honestly, it's not a fashion statement. Correct? Don't do as a fashion statement. You need to do it because
It works for you.
it works for you and this
Yeah.
is your business and family need. I would say largely 2, 3 and 4 tier cities, people are more simpler. They understand that this could lead to issues because now wealth is growing. And at this time, this is required to be done because the children are just about to join. So if you see, technically, it can be done by a very easy formula. Okay. There are some people who also are stakeholders and are working in the business. There could be some people in the family who are only stakeholders but not working in the business.
Because they're not capable.
Like could be the spouse of the promoter. Correct? She has a stake but is not working in the business. And there could be somebody who does not have a stake but is working and is a family member, which could be the son today.
Yeah.
And then there are important people like your employees. And there are important people if you're going to look at listing, investing, the investors, correct? I think the moment this shift happens where the promoter is moving out and the next generation is coming in, you see a huge shift in the way they approach, the way they think, and the way they deal. And a lot of times this creates a huge friction. When you're working in a family business, the most critical part of doing that is managing your emotions. Because if you are not able to manage that well, I think you're sitting on a ticking time bomb.
So when you say emotions, I would obviously relate it to mental health, right? Now today, a grandfather, his son, and the grandson, all three work in the same business.
Sure.
The grandfather has a certain mindset. He was the founder. The father has lived under the grandfather's presidential, hold, and he has dealt with it because that generation knew how to live with authority and still get work done. But now the grandson feels like both of them are doing a shitty job. Let me fix this.
Sure.
And he will have emotional frustrations because he still doesn't have the authoritative place to make those changes or make those decisions.
Absolutely right.
Do you provide any sort of counseling? Do you tell them that they need to go through therapy or counseling or some sort of emotional management? Because at this point, no matter what numbers you throw at them, it's all emotional battle. It's a power play.
So, Ashna, in a lot of family cases, we seek help of external mentors. There could be corporate trainers. In a lot of cases, we use counselors because people are not able to offload their baggage.
Exactly.
And that baggage could be childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Could
Most
be,
likely.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Yes,
correct?
most likely.
And unless and until you address that, it's difficult for you to move into the force that you want to move.
Yeah.
You feel so heavy because at every given time, that baggage will come and block your vision.
Yeah.
I think it's so we realize that in a lot of cases, see again, there are certain families who are ready to talk to a counselor. A lot of families are in denial.
Yeah, they will say, we don't need help, we are perfect.
So they would say, oh, why do you think we're crazy? Okay. They would say, okay, you think my son is crazy?
Yeah.
And they take it so personally.
You know, that's the point. Like, that's the whole point of this podcast. And this is the whole message we're trying to send. That just because you need to speak to a therapist, or just because you need to speak to a counselor, or just because you have no one else who'll understand your emotions, you speak to a person with a neutral perspective, doesn't make you crazy. You may have had childhood trauma. You may not even realize you've had those instances. You know, I'll give an example. I went to a boarding school. So I met people from all walks
Sure.
of life and all sorts of backgrounds. And we had somebody from a very good friend of mine who was from I have a friend who came from a family business of 2 generations or 3. Now, when this friend of mine finally finished school and went to graduate or whatever, had the mindset that the grandfather always gave what my friend wanted, but the father always opposed it. So if the grandfather said, this is the best cycle and my grandchild should have it, the father would say, she doesn't need it. She can't even cycle properly. So there was always the nagging from the father, and there was always the excess giving from the grandfather. Now what happens is this obviously built a pattern, and I also understood it in my adult life. I didn't understand it as a child. So all of my boarding school life I saw where the father would come and there would be friction with this friend of mine, and when the grandfather would come, there was a lot of love and there was a lot of giving, because this person felt special, that my grandfather only has love and abundance for me. Now when this person has grown up and gone into business, extreme frustration towards the father and extreme love and abundance towards the grandfather. But when I saw the financial decisions being made, or the succession planning happening, the father was very much right. But this person did not want to understand it, because since that person was a child, they had decided that my father's always against me. So, like you said, they may not realize as an adult what is right or wrong, because it's now childhood trauma that my grandfather is in my favor and my father is not in my favor. So now it's blinded and it's foggy. At the age of 32, my friend is not able to decide what's right or what's wrong, and is blindly focused on my grandfather's deciding right for me.
But here's where, Ashna, a third party advisor, mentor, or a
Exactly.
counselor comes and plays a role. So if you look at Mahabharata, I would say there was a mentor, counselor, or a healer called Krishna.
Yeah.
Correct? He came and tried to make sense
Yeah.
to both the set of families, right? And till one day before the Mahabharata war started, battle started, I think he tried to explain Duryodhan that don't do it.
Yeah.
It's different story that he was God, he could see everything, but he tried to explain to him that what you're doing is not right and don't do it. I think when these great people still got an external counselor, I think what's the harm in engaging somebody who probably knows the situation in a different way,
Yeah.
and have trust in him that he's working for you. Correct? A lot of times, if as a, like you take this case for example, what you gave right now, between the grandfather, the father, and the child. At a certain time, if one of them, I would say the father majorly, if he would have realized this, and don't tell me that parents don't realize, they do realize, correct? I think they need to seek help of somebody who's external, because maybe the child, or maybe all of you as a group would be able to pour yourself in a very, very different way, and you won't have any inhibitions.
Yeah, I think it's easier sometimes to talk to an outsider openly,
Yeah.
instead of addressing family issues within family.
Correct?
So that's what I feel like, because you come in, that was my question, that when you come in for business and succession planning, I'm sure you have people who need to take care of the mental side of things.
Absolutely, yes. See, and again, to a large extent, we do try and talk to families. But if you ask me, again, mental health is a very specialized subject, and there are subject experts who need to do it.
Absolutely.
Maybe we would mentor them, guide them, put documents in place, create structures, define policies, you define process rules. But for them to understand that this is for them and how the dots need to connect,
Connect, yeah.
maybe that intervention of a mind counselor or a therapist helps.
Correct.
And if you ask me, I would say that this needs to be done to a large extent, not only for the third generation, more so for the first and second generation also.
Yeah, because they are the generation who were taught how to suppress emotions. Third generation is still allowed to express or have learned to express.
And our experience till now has been the lady in the house is more forthcoming and accepting for these things, correct? A lot of times we've seen that men, maybe because their ego and nothing can go wrong.
They live in denial.
And there's where the lady of the house plays a role. If the lady of the house is involved, I'm saying not directly in the business, but somewhere in the entire ecosystem, I think that will help a lot of families, because I feel women have a better sixth sense. Women a lot of times are slightly more mature. Also,
And I think emotionally more aware.
also I feel they're more cutthroat.
Yeah.
If they need to cut a cord, they would be able to do it very easily. This is my personal experience, okay? Very easily than what a man would be able to do.
That's true. I agree 100%.
And sometimes in life, a lot of times in life, decisions are important.
Yeah.
Most of the times when we talk about family and mental health or mental issues, how to balance that, 99% families will procrastinate. They will say, not right now, we'll deal it later. Oh, what if I talk to my brother and, something wrong will happen. Oh, if I address something, a Pandora's box will open.
Yeah. Don't
And
want to risk.
constantly, they're trying to push it under the carpet, where they don't realize that by doing this, you're just creating a bigger mental issue which could explode in the wrong forum.
So you have dealt with, like you said, n number of families, right?
Yes.
And n number of family operations and business structures. Have you ever emotionally got involved somewhere where you felt like it was injustice and justice needed to be done? Has it ever happened?
Tricky. A lot of time does happen. And there's where the woman plays the role. My wife is somebody who is, I think, far more, I would say, practical when it comes to these things. And if there has to be somebody to burst the bubble.
Correct.
And I think my wife does that job brilliantly for me in personal life and otherwise. So whenever we are working in business families, she has a very different perspective. She has a very a clear perspective about things, saying, you know what, I think somewhere you're getting aligned. You need to step back. And what I do is, actually for the next couple of meetings, I step back and she takes the lead. So it does happen. See, when you're working with families on day in and day out,
I would
you're
assume
eating
so.
with them, you're sitting with them, and you're doing a lot of programs with them, you're traveling with them, you do tend to
Tend
get
to get
connected,
attached. Yeah.
right? But yeah, I think the better sense does prevail. And honestly, with experience, you do realize that maybe I would say that today, as a firm, as a person, I can see things slightly more dispassionately than what I used to do it earlier. But again, I think I do agree with you that it does happen, and I
Yeah.
would not want to deny that fact.
Yeah. So how do you coordinate multiple advisors while maintaining family peace?
So as I told you, we run a diagnostic process. We identify at a person level what is required in terms of nurturing, whether he needs a therapy, whether he needs a business coach, whether he needs maybe a systems expert. So all those things are identified. What we do is in the entire course, we at least conduct 4 trainings where external trainers are called, and we do a 2-day engagement program where we do probably we teach them how to read a person. If I'm talking to Ashna, Ashna could be of a typical, you could put her in 4 quadrants, correct? And you could say that, okay, she's this way. My approach should be this if I want to convey that to her, correct? We do that for them and we put it on a matrix where we give it to them saying, this is how you need to deal with people with these kind of qualities. So when they start dealing with family members, they're able to see that change, one. Two, we do a lot of team building exercises where the entire family is mixed to break those silos. So we do these multiple programs with families where we also groom them on a lot of finances.
Yeah.
How to probably look at a balance sheet or how to look at a contract for that matter. Okay. If you're looking at an acquisition, what do you need to look through? So I think what is important is the entire grooming of not only the business but the entire family.
Correct.
And that's what we do. So what we do is so it's divided into timelines where those programs are fit in there, where we'll call those experts pre-decided, 2 days would be engaged, and we don't do that in their office or in the residence. We'll see to it that we block 2 days and we go out of that city, because when we're doing say for example, when you're doing a program in their factory premises, the family members would be called every half an hour, and there's no seriousness to it.
Yeah, obviously.
So this way we want their mind, not only their body, also the mind attention to be there on that. And
Yeah, because when you leave your daily rut and you go out to do something, then you're focused on that project. And then it's a project.
And today, I think life has become more specific, more specialized, where you get specialized people for a specific advisory.
Correct.
Correct. So, for example, we also call external HR experts. We got for a family somebody from Singapore, somebody who spent probably 25 years in the global HR side, because this family was looking at going global in terms of their business. I said, first you need to understand the markets, you need to understand the people.
Yeah.
If you get the right people, only the business can expand.
Correct.
Right? So for them, we actually got a 2-day workshop where these guys traveled down to India, Himachal technically, and we spent 2 days dedicated for that. So depending on the need, we would do it. But yes, I think it's set on a program line where every quarter there is some of the other activity which is done.
So you meet these large families, large family businesses, old money, legacies. I'm sure you're working with, and I know that you're working with families who have had generational wealth for 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a huge learning process as well in terms of mindset for you.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you apply that in your family and your family life?
Absolutely, yes. So 2 things here, for example. See, when we are preaching that, the next generation should be hungry, in my family, I've got 4 kids. The family CEO is my wife.
Right.
And when I go home, I think she's the one who takes the call largely, correct? I think she's set rules. So for example, when we normally have dinner at 8 o'clock, you can't carry your phone to the dinner table. Sunday evening, dinner has to be with the family. Everybody will can their plans.
Yeah.
2 holidays in a year, one short, one long. Everybody has to sacrifice that time. For example, we have Ganpati at home for 5 days. The entire family takes leave for those 5 days. So, one part is that, where I think there are rules everybody needs to follow. Even I follow. Correct? 2, it's not that when you talk of 4 or 6 or 8 people in the family, everybody will behave differently. So one of the things happened where one of my children, one of my sons said that, you know what, I think you people are too overbearing and I want to leave the house.
How old is he?
So this was when he was 20. Now he's 22. So 2 or 22, correct? And my wife told him, fine, you can leave. So he said, fine, give me money And
That's my birthright.
and my phone, she said, first you drop your Apple phone, leave the Apple phone on the table
Yeah.
because that's not yours.
Correct.
2, you don't get any money. 3, appreciate that I'm leaving clothes on you. You can walk out. Technically, even the clothes that you are wearing, we have provided for it. You can leave everything and then walk out of the house.
He didn't go anywhere.
He went. After an hour, he came back. I think I forgot my charger. His phone was on that house. So I think you need to demonstrate that. So Ashna, honestly, like when you're dealing with my families, I told you about one child and how my wife reacted to that, and I got slightly emotional, saying, "You know what, Are?" She said, "Relax. I think if I use a cane, I think I need to use a cane for everybody."
Correct.
Correct. On the therapy side, for example, we realized that one of our sons needs an external counselor. And me and Adipti spoke to somebody and engaged the external trainer. And probably he is seeking help. And we see a huge change
Amazing.
in him. We don't, I don't think there's anything wrong. If I get a cut, I'll go to the doctor and do whatever the doctor has to do.
Yeah, these are invisible wounds that need to be fixed.
And there could be something in the childhood, maybe I would have said, he would have seen, something would have happened. I think it's important to address these kind of issues.
Yeah, because we don't even realize the impressions we are leaving.
The third example I'll give you. So I've got 3 sons and 1 daughter. Okay. The youngest one, he realized that he's dealing with his own maybe issues, but he was not somebody he was an introvert largely. He would not go out and speak and not get engaged and would cry a lot of times. We took a call that it's now critical that he comes out of this shell. What do we do? I said, let's put him in a residential school. So after 7th, we put him in a residential school. This child was 105 kgs before he went. Today he is close to 5'10" in height. He has lost weight, and if he was fitting in a XL size, he's gone to small. Okay. Now he acts in place. He is comparing programs in events in the school. He wants to now go to, there's an event there's a school organizing, and he's presenting the school for a Singapore event. So we see that huge change. So I think as a parent, it's important to identify that that your child needs it.
Yeah.
And then implement it.
Yeah. Correct.
See, it was not easy. It was not easy because to tell a child, walk out. Or, for example, he said, I'm feeling like committing suicide. There's an approach. So we said, okay, fine, we stay on the 35th floor. Just open the window and jump. I said, if you think it's so easy in life, he didn't.
Was it a tantrum?
Tantrum. Tantrum, why? Because he says, I wanted a MacBook Air. And I said, okay, you will get it, but do something.
Yeah, that all comes from privilege, unfortunately.
So he's saying, what's the point of your money?
Yeah, that's exactly. I think, unfortunately, when you have wealthy parents, that's what I said. Your kids are second generation, right?
Yeah.
You're the founder of
Yes.
your company,
Yes.
wealth, whatever.
Yes.
This is the problem I'm talking about. The second generation, you can't help, but the second generation's drive, firstly, is lower. Secondly, unless the parents really work on the drive. And secondly, it is that privilege. And even the parents do it. I didn't have it, you should have it. I went in a cycle, you must have a car. So the drive to buy a car is not there, it's given.
Correct.
So that's why your son feels, you have all this money, you can easily buy me a MacBook Air. What is your problem? You're not ready to give it to me.
Correct.
You are against me.
Correct.
You're fighting for me. So, fighting with me. So I feel that's where the battle comes, of this generational wealth. And that's where I feel that counseling can really make a difference, not just to the children, but even to the parents, because it is not easy to deal with privileged kids.
I agree.
There has to be a system to deal with privileged kids also, and where I think external help really would make a difference.
And see the zeal of saying, okay, I didn't get something, so let me provide something
That's
more
what I'm
for the
saying.
child.
Parents feel I went on a cycle, I suffered, my father had nothing. We lived in a 1 BHK in Powai or wherever. And
Correct.
today I'm living in Juhu and I have a bungalow, and why my son shouldn't enjoy what I didn't have. So I understand
So I'll
the
give an
mindset.
example. I'll give an example. When so I'm born and brought up in Pune. My parents worked in government jobs, where initially they used to go on cycle to the office.
Yeah.
After a long time, they bought one scooter. So when my older son he was like 8 years old. We had gone once to Pune and he was spending time with his grandmother. We call her Ajji. Okay. So he's quite curious to know about a lot of things. So he'll ask, he started asking questions to her. So he asked her, so Ajji, you didn't have mobile phone? So I told him mobile phones were started in 94, and in 60s and 70s, people didn't have a normal phone. Oh, so Ajji didn't have AC? I said, no, my son. The first AC was bought when I got the first house in Mumbai. Oh, so how she used to go to office? I said, either on a cycle initially and then on a Luna, a moped. Oh, she didn't have a car. No. So house? I said it was a 1-bedroom house and we all shared. You didn't have an independent room. I said, no. He said then, oh, Ajji is poor. See how, what I did post that for next 1 month, he was sent by the normal PMT bus to the school. Cars were stopped. We traveled in wherever possible in locals, in taxis. I stopped buying him toys because I realized that I am spoiling him.
Yeah. We don't realize we're doing it.
And I think that is more important. So today, I think our children, I would say largely because of all these things, largely also because my wife thinks very differently about how the children should be brought up. But today, they realize that if we don't work hard, this business is not for them. I told them that I'll sell it. Me and my wife will donate the money. The house that we live, I said it's not your house. If you want to earn, if you don't earn, I said you will not get.
Yeah.
I said
Very
we'll fund your ventures,
Yeah.
but I'm an investor. I'm not going to fund your business because I'm your father. I said, so if you want to start a business, more than happy, you should start a business. Advice is free.
It's great that you're putting them on survival mode, because one needs to be on survival mode to survive.
In fact, I told them that now they're in the third year of law. I said, why don't you start some business? I said, sell anything. So in my college days, I used to sell wall clocks. But if you ask me, that helped me.
Yeah.
Because during those times, I used to earn 6,000 rupees a month, and I used to blow that money. Correct?
Yeah.
I said, you can do that. I said, do on your own.
Yeah.
If business has to be learnt, you can't learn a business when you're in 30s.
Yeah. Has to come young.
You're an entrepreneur, you're always an entrepreneur.
Correct.
So I think we're trying to, and this is what is probably important. But you need to acknowledge and implement that.
So, what final advice would you give to families that are starting their wealth planning and succession planning?
Multiple things. I think wealth is hard earned, so it should be preserved. Definitely, wealth also should be put to use where you enjoy your wealth. My first advice is that don't just give it to your children. There are structures available like trust structures where you can put your wealth there, where in your lifetime the wealth should suffice you.
Right.
If they deserve, they should get it.
They have to earn it.
And this is an individual call. Whether you want to give it to charity if they don't deserve, I think that's an individual call. But technically, I think creating a structure helps because it'll take care of contingencies. Sudden death, incapacitation, and so on and so forth. Even inheritance tax for that matter. So I think it's creating a structure is important. Two, so what we have done, we have created trust structures for the kids. just to give them the flavor of finance and investing, whatever they earn through the year in terms of internship, or they get a lot of gifts from everybody, right? That money is put into the trust account, which is for them. So we got two trust accounts, one that we fund and we manage. The other one is where they have the trading account. So they trade their own portfolio and they need to give a report every month on what they're buying or they're selling, whether they're making money or they're making losses.
Good, so there's accountability.
So there's an accountability, correct? And this money, I told them, when you travel and you want to do shopping, you can do that.
Amazing.
I said, every money that you put in the trust, I'll double the money. So there's an incentive for them to either save, to either generate, and that's what we follow for all the kids. So coming back, I think it's important that families understand that if wealth is created, it's not free.
Yeah.
If you want to pass it on to the next generation, it's not easy now that the kids won't understand how much of wealth you have. But is it required for them to know each and every penny that you have? Not required.
No.
I think they need to also see your struggles. See, what happens is a lot of times we only tell them the good side of the business. We don't tell them the difficult side.
Yeah.
They don't know that. Probably I have also survived difficult times. Correct? And I do make it a point to tell them that this is not bed of roses. There are ups and downs, but I am completely devoted to this business because I am passionate about it and I want to build it up. And we have created a certain brand, correct? I think wealth, so for example, I was advising one family, and a large family, and he said that, what should I do? If we're talking of a multiple billion-dollar business, I said, don't transfer your stake to your child. Create a trust structure, transfer it there. And when he is achieving certain target, dilute a certain stake to his trust. He said, so multiple meetings happened, and eventually he gifted it, the entire stake to the child, and later on, the same child threw the parents out.
My goodness.
And they didn't even have a house.
Oh no.
Okay, so I'm saying these things can happen. So first and foremost, it's important that you protect yourself. And you teach the children that the money is not everlasting. If the money doesn't grow, if you don't really work hard, money is not going to grow on its own. So from a very early age, at least when it comes to our kids, we try to teach them what is investing and how you can make the money. See, for example, post-pandemic, the markets have grown probably 3-fold or 4 times, and these kids, they have not seen a downside of the market.
Correct.
The day they see it, probably 70 to 80% people will leave the markets and go back to normal investing because they have not seen a downfall, a sharp downfall. If this market takes a tank and tanks it, say 30 or 40%, I'm guaranteeing you 70% people will leave the markets because they won't have money to then, or they wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, they wouldn't know what to do.
So I think it's important where milestones need to be also drawn, where the families need to understand that if I have a son, he's going to go for graduation, he may start his business, I may have a grandchild, this is the money for the marriage. I think that needs to be planned. So milestone level planning needs to be done at what events you want to spend and how do you provide for that. One more factor here is important, Ashna, is most of the families, 2 things they don't realize. One, short-term money is invested for long-term, where then they struggle with cash flows, correct? And the other part is, I think it's extremely critical where you need to understand how much leverage you can do.
Yeah.
How much of money that you should borrow. That's one part of it. At the same time, a lot of businesses are so invested in their business that they draw frugal salaries. They live a very frugal life.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also wrong. Where you are $1 billion business and the son does not get the, or the children does not get the basic benefits out of it. So it's, I think, important where people also create an additional corpus other than the business, because if business tanks tomorrow, there is nothing to fall back on.
Correct.
So it's extremely important to create a capital which is other than the business. So it's important to take the dividends, pay the tax. It's important to take higher salaries, invest that into some other business, or invest that into a trust where you can invest that money somewhere else. So I think as a financial discipline, these things are important.
So I would like to end the episode by asking you, what role do you see mental health playing in the future family office services?
I personally feel this is the second step. First step for the family is to identify that we need to do this. So they need to engage with an expert who will help them with the family business. But the second most important step is they need to seriously hire somebody in terms of a mentor, a coach, and a counselor who would be able to analyze each and every family member, understand if there are any issues, baggages, and help the member and the family deal with those mental issues. Because 90% you are in denial, 90% you don't want to accept that there's a problem. And again, as I told you, you want to procrastinate about your personal things also. I'll do it later, it's not important today. But that only escalates, and it's like the pressure cooker. You, if the steam is not let out, it will burst.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with emotion. And maybe because of that, you see depression. Maybe because of that, you see suicides. Maybe because of that, you see businesses also getting disrupted.
Yeah.
So I think it's an extremely important factor
Yeah.
that each and every family needs to understand.
Yeah, they need to consider it. for
Maybe not
sure.
everybody in the family needs it, but you need to understand that some people in the family need to do it.
But I think at some point, everybody should be considered for it so that there is synergy in understanding where they're heading.
So I feel maybe all families should at least do couple of sessions with some counselor
Yeah.
who could help them see things from a different perspective.
Correct.
Because if I say that, okay, only my perspective is right, maybe today my children are probably Gen Z or whatever, correct? The terminologies that they use, I am not able to relate. So honestly, a lot of times I am researching on this generation and how I should deal with them.
Yeah.
But if I could hire a counselor who could tell me, you know what, I think maybe even you have a baggage, and we did that. Okay, honestly, we did that, and probably that helps us to see our children and situations differently. So I think each and every family, especially business families, because I think they have the onus and they have the responsibility to a large audience for the business that they have built, that the business continues. So they need to do this as a paramount important thing.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. It has been an absolute pleasure having you, and what a great conversation in family succession planning and business succession planning and financial succession planning. I think you've given us a great deal of information on this. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Ashna. Pleasure. All pleasures. Thank you.